if you have a negative, you want to reframe it into a positive or at least make it neutral. And throughout all these stories is to get your power back, to get the where you're like, hey, I can wake up on May 16th and be like, I became an author that day. Like I dropped my first book. Like so it's a different feeling. And that's the thing is as we learn how to control our nervous system, that's I feel like where we are able to take the different steps, where we're able to live more comfortably in the uncomfortable.
Welcome to the Wisdom We Share podcast, where ancient truths and modern intelligence weave together to inspire, ground, and shape us for a wiser, awakened life. I'm Anjani Amrit.
And I'm Robin Wald. And together we bring you fascinating conversations from the worlds of spirituality, science, and human behavior, so you can connect to your own inner wisdom, joy, and clarity, elevating the way you actually live your life. All right, so today we have Dwayne Morton on the show with us. Dwayne, it's great to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to be our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you to the listeners. I like to just start out with ultimate gratitude. And so I think time is the most valuable commodity. So when people give me their time, I like to just say thank you, whether they're listening in the morning, afternoon, or night, on the recording. And so I want to thank you guys for inviting me on and to your platform so I can share my story and my wisdom.
Amazing. We're excited to have you share your wisdom. And thank you for starting with gratitude. I think for me personally, that's the most powerful spiritual practice on a daily basis. And, not taking for granted anyone or any moment. So thank you for even just starting that and setting the tone. So a little bit about you. So Dwayne Morton is the founder of Show Up to Win and the author of The Bounce Back Blueprint, Become Bulletproof. A former overseas basketball player, he turned personal adversity, including a misdiagnosed cancer battle and surviving a shooting, into a mission to help others build resilience and purpose. Through coaching, speaking, and storytelling, Dwayne empowers people to show up fully and win in life, business, and beyond. Okay, wow. So I have to start with the big elephant in the room because not everybody in their bio talks about surviving a shooting. So can we maybe just start there? Because I know that that's going to be on listeners' minds before they could focus their attention on anything else you have to say. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Sure. So this was actually happened 3 years ago. It actually May 16th of 2022. It's also one of the reasons I dropped my book on that anniversary, because I know about how mindset is, right? I need to take the power back from that date rather than it be a negative date. So that I wanted to share. What happened was I was driving by a police station. Unfortunately, a criminal had a hidden gun, killed a police officer. We were driving by and there was a police shootout. A stray bullet hit the truck that I was driving. And that truck, if there's a roof and then there's a piece of metal that attaches the bed and the roof of the truck. It hit that piece of the metal. So if that bullet would have been an eighth of an inch to the left, it kills me. Eighth of an inch to the right, hits my 3-year-old niece in the back seat. So I was dealing with PTSD and survivor's guilt as I was dealing with the blood cancer diagnosis at the time.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to get through. I mean, being English myself, it's really shocking when I hear gun stories. I know you guys are American, but it just blows my mind how often and how regular those things kind of happen. And I want to ask you, Dwayne, going from there, you said you flipped that date into something positive. So tell us a little bit more about that. You've got your book coming out. What does that mean to you to make that change that date so it's not just, a victim story, but a story of resilience, coming back? Just share with us the wisdom that you got from that there.
Yeah. So the wisdom of it would be, hey, if you have a negative, you want to reframe it into a positive or at least make it neutral. And throughout all these stories is to get your power back, to get the where you're like, hey, I can wake up on May 16th and be like, I became an author that day. Like I dropped my first book. Like, so it's a different feeling. And that's the thing is as we learn how to control our nervous system, that's, I feel like, where we are able to take the different steps, where we're able to live more comfortably in the uncomfortable. I'm a very introverted person, very, I like to be alone. I like to read books, those type of things. And that's been the way I've been for a long time. And so for me, getting up and speaking and being known is a fear, but I had to like get my nervous system to realize that. And that's with all things. Like with basketball, I would always like take what I could that was good and focus on the good, but also take the criticism and make that my weaknesses into my strengths.
That's, I relate so much to a lot of what you just said. I'm also somebody who's very introverted, and I do a lot of public facing. I'm a teacher in many different, I lead programs, and there's the whole like being seen is not comfortable for me. Like I prefer to be in the background. I prefer to be alone or reading a book or something like that. And the practice, so what I'm hearing a lot about is like there is some practice involved in building up your strength or your muscle around doing what's uncomfortable for you. I'm wondering how much basketball played into that for you, like learning to show up and practice even when you don't want to, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when it's, in your face how much you suck, right? Like tell us more about your experience as a professional basketball player.
So first of all, I didn't play professional. I actually just went overseas on a mission trip, and through that, I came back with an agent. I was about to turn pro, and I hurt my knee. So there was some different things, but my dream was to play past high school as a kid. Like I just wanted to play college basketball, and I feel like I surpassed it actually. But as a 4-year-old, I shot at a 10-foot go. We didn't change the height of the basketball go. At that time, it wasn't like that. So at my grandparents' house, we had just a wooden backboard attached to a wooden, and so it was at 10 feet. And so I had a men's basketball, which is, a regular size basketball. So think about a 4-year-old boy. Like I'm not able to hit the basketball. So back then they had nets that were red, white, and blue. So I'd pick the color of the net to get, and then I would hit the rim, and then it would go in and in. I feel like that is the very beginning of my resilience story. And then through athletics, we were pushed. And I feel like that's one thing that needs to be done for us as individuals is push ourselves. Like I told you guys earlier, like I pushed myself to complete a 5-day fast yesterday. So, I mean, those things I think are very important to realize where you're can become more comfortable in that uncomfortable zone, but also push yourself to see what your limits are. And I'm not talking about doing anything crazy, like, and I'm not going to say crazy. It's crazy to me because I don't like heights, but you're not going to catch me like jumping out of an airplane. Like, you're just not going to see it. Like, I don't feel like that's for me, but I feel like those type of things is like where we're able to push our boundaries, I think is very important.
It's a great point, Dwayne, because I think a lot of people expect change in their comfort zone. And I would love to hear your thoughts on getting out of your comfort zone, what that does for us from your perspective. Like, what does it do for our mindset? What does it do for our emotional body, perhaps? What it does for us chemically or biologically from your point of view, because you talked about the fast, and maybe you want to wrap it into that story about the fast you just finished. And what are the outside hidden forces that often stop us that we might not even be aware of from moving out of our comfort zone as well as our own?
Yeah, so I think it's how we're taught, how we're educated. We're taught like a certain way, different rules, and like if you go outside of this box, like you're pretty much like you're going to die. And I hate to put it to that point, but like if you don't eat the 4 basic food groups, like so, but what we're learning more is like with the carnivore diet, the same thing. 10 years ago, I would have never fasted. I would have just been like, no, that's not for me. Same thing with vegetarian. I tried vegetarian a couple of times, but I tried it more for like I did a month and a half, like 4 years ago. And I think it's important to like really test to see like what we like and what we don't. Also, one thing I also realized is my palate in my mouth has changed too. So like I've been trying foods that like I would normally be like, no, I don't really like that because I feel like those are the type of things that I feel like we can do better. It's just be like, hey, I had a bad experience. The experience doesn't change what that food or whatever that experience was. And it all ties back to beliefs. Our belief system is just based on lies. Like it says lie in the middle of it. So,
That's funny.
but
I never saw that before.
think of this, like give me another definition of believe or belief without using the word believe, right? Like you have to use that word. And so that's another aspect. And I mean, I had a really great friend who taught me that. And when he taught me that, I was like, oh, okay, there's more to this. This is almost like a word that the education system uses to limit us. And, and I felt like that was the thing. And so I just try to push my boundaries. I feel like it's extremely important to find things that like, I feel if there's something there that makes me not want to do it, I want to know the purpose of why I do not want to do it. Does that make sense?
See, that's
Yeah.
so fascinating, and it very much goes counter to our natural instincts, right? So our human instinct is to self-preserve and protect, and there's a reason we stay in our comfort zone, right? It's familiar. I know the dangers here. I know how to manage those. I can be in somewhat, whether it's illusory or not, like an idea of control, right? In what I've created. But as soon as we go outside of that and we're faced with the unfamiliar or we're challenging ourselves with something new, there's a perceived threat there, right? But any threat, it's like they say fear is false evidence appearing real, which is kind of going right to what you're saying about beliefs include lies. Like, what am I believing? What am I telling myself? Or what has been taught to me that I've just accepted as truth that maybe I have to unlearn. So, like, what in your life, when you work with clients, like, how do you use this whole idea of shifting mindset or belief systems or unlearning assumptions? How does that play into people's success?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with clients is different than myself. What I realized when that coach told me that part about the belief and that type of stuff, I looked at all the things. When I was younger, someone in my family had gotten hit by lightning. And so anytime that it was like just overcast, it was like, hey, make sure you don't go outside with aluminum bat. Hey, don't swing a golf club, like those type of things. And so then I noticed like whenever it would get just overcast, I'm like, okay, time to go inside. Now I would play basketball in the rain and that type of stuff, but I'm dribbling a rubber ball or a leather ball. So that was the thing. And when I started really just journaling and thinking about all these different things that other people brought to me and not, that I learned through someone else. So that was the thing. So for clients, the same thing. I just say, hey, when I hear certain things, like, so I coach an athlete, I do mental performance with athletes. And so I was talking to an athlete one day and he was like, listen, he goes, I don't want to hit the baseball to right field because I was taught to pull the ball. Like I was taught to pull the ball by my dad. I was taught by my coaches, all my coaches. He's like, so now I'm in the minor leagues. Like they're telling me to like be able to hit the ball the other way. He's like, I don't know how to do that. He's like, I've been a pull hitter my whole entire life. And so what I told him was like, so you're based on that belief on what other people say. Like, this professional coach is telling you that you need to change your mindset to a different look. And you'll probably like, he could possibly have, without that shift of mindset, he might not be able to make it to the majors. I mean, so those things are like, when you look back at those type of things, and so that's what I do with my clients. I just give them a different perspective. It's the 6-9 thing. When you start walking and you get a different perspective, then you start understanding that maybe not what I fully understand or what I feel like I fully understand is what I truly believe. And so same thing is like, I feel like one of my superpowers has always been, I've been able to take other people's perspective in.
If you are listening to this podcast, you are likely committed to personal growth and open to new and interesting perspectives that you can integrate into your daily life. One amazing way to expand your awareness of your wants, needs, patterns, and goals is through what I offer as a cosmic wisdom coach. A professional natal, transit, or relationship astrology reading can help you make sense of your life and choices through an evolutionary and archetypal lens. Impactful one-on-one coaching supports you to tap into your own resourcefulness and problem solving. I am so honored to partner with you for your growth, well-being, and success. You can learn more or book a session at www.robinwald.com. Use code WISDOM to receive a Wisdom We Share listener discount on any service. You can also sign up for my mailing list to receive useful monthly cosmic wisdom teachings.
And how does that specifically, so if are you training people in opening their perception, opening their perspective, helping them move beyond their stories? Because this is what I think I'm hearing. And these are deep spiritual teachings that you're kind of bringing this ancient wisdom back into a modern world in terms of looking at your story, looking at your beliefs, looking at your mindset, and then moving outside of that. So what are there any specific steps or recommendations that you could share with our listeners that would help them once they have, maybe moved their perspective or looked at something else? How might they shift a really dogged, rigid? Because I know for me, people love clinging to their beliefs, right? They're so wedded to them. What can you share about that? How can people unhook from those really embedded beliefs?
I think they have to make a decision. The decision is going to bring a commitment, but they have to make a decision of like, hey, I want the results to get me here. I'm willing to do what is necessary to get me here. And I'm also willing to unlearn some different things. I think it comes into them actually just buying in. I think that's one of the first things. I was working with someone. This was earlier on, more in the sports psychology part, but he was working with self-doubt. And I worked with him for 4 months, and I didn't feel like he bought in. And then one day he bought in, and then he became a really good college player. And I was telling him, I was like, the whole entire time you're beating your head up against the wall trying to figure this out. And I was like, you never believed that it would work the very first second you walked in, and you kept believing that. And so I was like, there was times where I just wanted to say, no, like I'm done trying to coach you because you did not do what, first of all, they didn't do what I asked. They weren't bought in, but they also didn't believe that change could happen to them. So I think it goes back to like, hey, I'm willing to do what other people are unwilling to do. That is the first thing. The second thing is, hey, I want these results. So what am I willing to take away, erase to get those? And I think that those are these steps. And that has to come from the client, right? But also we have to coach to get that out. And so I think that's very important. The other thing is, I feel by them coming to us and purchasing the program or just coming and approaching, they want the change. We got to find the reason that they want the change, and why are they not making the change?
Yeah. So all of us are coaches, right? So you're definitely speaking to something that is really fundamental about coaching, which is that as a coach, the person that I'm working with, I treat them as fully responsible, accountable, competent, capable. They are the ones who are willing and choosing to engage in a coaching relationship so that they can figure out their goals and move forward around them, right? It's not, the coach's job isn't to fix or psychoanalyze or any of that. The coach is there to be like, okay, you want this. Let's help you explore what you want, why you're not getting there, what can help you get there. So it's really interesting what you're saying about this buy-in and making a decision having to be the first step. I really appreciate that because one thing that I've noticed a lot of in the modern culture is that there tends to be kind of like, I'm going to try to say this politely, so, I'm not looking to offend anyone, but I've noticed that people sort of elevate like almost like victim consciousness as like a badge of honor. Like, oh, here are all of the reasons why I'm a victim and I'm oppressed, and these are all my traumas. And I'm not belittling that people have real trauma and that there is real oppression and injustice in the world that affects people disproportionately. Like, that's real. But the problem with overly identifying with the problem or the why I can't, that everything is stacked against me and I cannot make change because of all of these external or past factors. And when people overly identify with being the victim, they give away all their power. And the power starts with deciding in this moment, I am capable and competent to take responsibility to make change in my life and to get the support and guidance and professional help that can help me move forward in that way. So I'm curious what your thoughts are and if you see this, especially with younger, I don't know, do you work with younger athletes as well? Like, are you seeing this in the younger generation? Like, oh, all the reasons and justifications for why they really can't show up in their life.
Yeah. So I think everyone's capable. And I love the fact that you brought in the victimhood, because one of the things is, and I did it myself when I was going through the shooting and I found out that I was misdiagnosed for 18 and a half years and find out, hey, I only had severe sleep apnea, which I was able to be basically healed in about 2 weeks. So yeah, I could take that victim part and run that with a badge of honor. But what I chose to do was take the ownership of all the things that I could do, put that on my shoulder and say, hey, I made this decision. I made this choice. I made this decision, blah, blah, blah. I got these consequences. Okay. What I can do right now to change, because I'm not Marty McFly. I don't have the DeLorean, right? So I can't change it. And honestly, people have told me, they said, if we had a pill and you could change it, would you? And I said, no. And the reason I say no is because it made me who I am right now today, where I'm on your show, where I'm on a program called The Wisdom We Share.
I love that. I love that, Dwayne. Yes, go on.
So the part that I could take and do, and I believe in presence. The other thing is my program and my brand's called Show Up to Win. Showing up to me is not just showing up in attendance. I've been to all kinds of personal development stuff, and people are just there. They're on their phone. They're, scribbling. They're doodling. You're not going to get any type of anything out of that conference that you paid all those dollars because you did not show up with intention and show up with presence. So Show Up to Win is not about winning games and championships. It's about putting yourself in that championship mindset, but your job is to show up with intention and show up in presence. And so I feel like that is what I teach. I teach those people to have that type of mindset. And the book that I did, I call it a bulletproof mindset. It's an oxymoron. The bullet didn't hit me that day, right? But it took a part of my heart, my soul, and my innocence. So those are the things, but it's all about how we respond. If I'm living presently, I can't worry about the past. If I'm worried about the past, I'm depressed, right? Same thing. If I'm focusing so much on the future, I'm going to be anxious. The secret part is that present, which that's the true gift.
So with that, what's one internal muscle that most people never train, but absolutely need to if they want to thrive beyond just performing through life?
Hey there, Anjali Amrit here. Quick pause before I get back to the conversation. If you're the kind of person who listens to episodes like this one and then sits with it, turns it over, asks yourself the harder questions, wonders what it would actually look like to live differently, this is for you. I've created something called Within for exactly you, the one who's not just consuming wisdom, but genuinely looking to integrate it, to actually change from the inside out. Within is a membership where we go deeper with practices, guidance, and a community of people who are serious about their inner growth, not in a heavy way, in a real, grounded, and sustainable way. It's where the doing happens, where you take what resonates and actually work with it in your own life. The doors aren't open yet, but the wait list is. First access and something special goes to everyone on it when we launch. If it's calling you, the link is in the show notes, www.anjaliamrit2eyes.com/within membership waitlist. Now, back to the conversation.
I love this question. I absolutely love this question. So I tell people all the time, they say, I don't have anything to be happy or grateful for. And I say, like, put your hand on your chest. Every heartbeat, that's something to be grateful for. Because there's a lot of other people that don't have it, right? Same thing when I breathe, I realize that, like, that is another step that other people don't have. So we have this built-in mechanic anywhere that allows us to just be grateful, but also allows us to realize that, like, hey, I'm alive. Like, I should just be happy that, like, hey, I'm learning this lesson. Maybe I'm going through something that's really difficult. And so for me, it's like when the shooting happened and I was trying to control my heartbeat, because I knew back in the day, someone told me, hey, control your breath, control your heartbeat. So that's what I did. I took a deep breath. I got as calm as I could. It stayed out of shot. Same thing. And I also feel like a lot of people, we overcomplicate a lot of matters that really aren't that big of a deal. How many friends get an unexpected bill and feel like the world is about to fall on them? Like, that's not true resilience, right? Like, that is just, you're going through life. Those things happen. I like to call them potholes in my program. They're just potholes. And if we're driving a car and we're driving down the street, guess what we do when we see a pothole? We move the car. We swerve. We try to miss the pothole if we can, but if we don't, we just don't want to take that center hit. And I feel like that's a lot of people's problems is they don't realize that they can be adaptable.
Wow.
I think they don't. And I think, to be fair to people, is that we're not taught this. And I love that we're able to share this wisdom, because through sharing this, it will help people have what you're talking about, Dwayne, that different perspective, that then they can move into a practice of gratitude, because no one teaches us this anywhere. We're not taught it at school. We're not taught it at universities. We're not taught it in management classes, in leadership training. It's not taught anywhere. And so I think it's important that you're bringing this into such a practical way for people to hear, because otherwise we don't know what we don't know, right? And so I think it's important for people to just hear this. What do you reckon, Robin?
Well, first of all, I was going to push back a little bit about nobody's teaching it anywhere. So you know that I teach children, and gratitude is a huge part of what I bring into all of my teaching. And I have my fifth graders with a journal, and we start every class with them saying at least 3 things they're grateful for in the moment or that's happened in their life this week. And it is about teaching them to develop a habit, because habits take a long time to create, right? So gratitude maybe it doesn't just come naturally, easily to some people, but if you practice anything, I mean, people have different numbers for this. I say 40 days. If you could practice something for 40 days consistently, it now becomes a habit and an automatic. One of my gratitude practices is I wake up in the morning and I'm coming from a Jewish tradition, and there are some morning blessings that you say, which are all about, the very first blessing is, I am thankful. Those are the first 2 words out of your lips. And when you wake up in the morning, modeh ani, which means I am grateful, I am thankful for my breath being restored into my body this morning. And then the second blessing is I'm grateful for my soul, which is pure and good. And the third blessing is I'm grateful for my body with all of its openings and closings and functioning. And so, like, that's my morning practice. I wake up exactly like you said, Dwayne. I'm grateful my heart is beating and I'm breathing and my body functions. I've got a brand new day. right? But I wanted to ask you, Dwayne, because one of the things that I loved when I was looking at your website is you were talking about Dwayne's daily plan of attack, and you have like a
Yeah.
4-step approach. So I would love for you to get really granular with us and give our listeners some very practical advice and wisdom on like, what do you say is a daily plan of attack to really upgrade your life?
Well, so you're going to love this because the first thing I do is wake up and I'm grateful. I'm grateful because guess what? Other people don't get that opportunity to wake up. So when these are actually the 4 steps that I talk about, but these are the 4 things that I did when I was going through my diagnosis. So, but the first step is going to be gratitude. My second one is going to be self-care, whether that's texting somebody, looking at the Bible, looking at different things. Just do something for yourself. Like do something that just makes you happy or makes you like enjoy your day or wait. Some people like to have a glass of coffee, just some type of self-care type. The next thing is going to be just movement. So whenever I was dealing with the diagnosis, I felt like I had the flu every day. Nobody likes having a flu, but that was how I felt every day. So it was like I was waking up with a quarter of a tank of energy. And so if it was just me going and getting a glass of OJ out of the fridge, I celebrated that. I was like, okay, I've done a good day. Like I moved. And so, I kind of mentioned a little bit, but I take a runner's approach to my day. I approach it like if I'm running left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. The things when they are hard, I concentrate on something simple. Just like when I'm running, I don't look far ahead. I definitely do not look back. But also in our lives, what do? We're looking at the past all the time, but nobody runs backwards, right? And that keeps us in depression. Same thing with the future. If I'm looking so far at my destination, I'm going to go off direction, but I'm also going to get anxious. So the gift is the present. So for me to stay present in the way I run, I'm only looking 15 to 20 feet ahead. I'm not looking way, way ahead. I might glance at it, but I'm aware. Like I want to be very aware. I want to be so aware that I want to be aware of being aware. And then the 4th step is going to be just being adaptable. It's the same thing with the pothole approach. Whenever I'm running, I need to make sure that like, okay, I live in a rural country part in Kentucky. Like I need to know if there's a snake, a little bit in front of me. Like if so, okay, I can stop and I can move around, right? So that's what I'm talking about is just move those potholes, move those obstacles and realize that you have the ability to just move out of the situation, but also you have the ability to be aware and just maybe hit the left or the right side of the pothole. And your day's so much better because guess what? I'm practicing awareness. I saw it, or I noticed it. And number 2 is like, I controlled what I can control. I reacted. I controlled everything. I didn't have to take an action step, but I decided, hey, it was a good time to take an action step. I think that's important. That's where you get your power back.
Yeah, I think that if I can summarize what I'm hearing from you is that it's an internal control that we have rather than an external, because I know a lot of people believe that the outside environment has to be in a certain way in order for them to be happy, to get stuff done, to overcome hardship. And what I'm hearing from you is that we can't control any of the outside environment, but we can control how we respond to the outside environment. And not even as more than that, we can actually choose how going forward we want our life to move by shifting our mindset, doing those practices. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, so everything you said, and I'm going to take it from a basketball standpoint because that's also like what I felt. I couldn't control if the ref was going to call hard fouls or not today. I couldn't control if he's going to. Now, I can react to it, and if I react, he gets to, put me in timeout. He gets to give me a technical, or he actually gets to control the game. That's his job, is to control the game. Whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. Same thing. When I get a bill from the government saying, hey, I got to pay something. Okay, if I said, hey, I'm not going to do it, there's consequences. And I think that's another thing is like, I think a lot of people don't realize sometimes our decisions, they have consequences. And, I go back to the shooting that day, I was taking my 3-year-old niece to get ice cream. I could have went right that day. I chose to go left. And by choosing to go left, I ended up us driving through a police shootout. But like, that choice was mine. And I take ownership of that too. Like, I didn't know all that was going to happen. And I feel like that's another thing is people just have to understand that sometimes we're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's not that we had done anything to deserve it, but what we did is there's a lesson that we were supposed to learn. And through that lesson, our ability isn't, this doesn't happen to us. We say it happens to us, that's a victim mentality. When we say it happens for us, that's an ego part, right? The secret is things happen through us. It happened because your shoulders were strong enough to carry it, but you are supposed to facilitate the lesson. I'm very purpose driven. So like we were talking about earlier, I'm an introvert. Going on podcasts, that scared the holy hell out of me. Talking in front of 1,000 people when I did it at 20, I was scared. But I realized, hey, there was something to this. And I think that's just important is like sometimes we're out of alignment too. We can get into that part also. Like sometimes you're out of alignment and those things happen to you to get in alignment, to get you to better.
Wow. I actually love how you framed that. I just want to repeat it for our listeners because this was so powerful that, we can take the mindset that things happen to us, right? Completely not in our control and we're somehow a victim of what happened to us. And then a different step is that it happens for us. Like, okay, this is somehow for me. There's a lesson in this. What am I learning? What am I supposed to receive? But it's still very me centric. And there's like a little bit of ego, like there's something important about me here. And then there's this taking it to a whole other level, which is very spiritual and very faithful, which is it happens through us. And that almost has me then connect to, I'm just a channel for life to be experienced through me. And whatever's being experienced through me has almost an even bigger, more mysterious, kind of soulful purpose there. And I'm part of that journey with it, and there's some faith in that also, I think, which I think that's a beautiful way of talking about it. I do have a question for you about working with young people and with athletes. And I know that I have kids, a son especially, who's an athlete his entire childhood, high school, very high level, so much pressure, so much intensity, a lot of, oh my gosh, athletes work really hard because it's always about improving and improving and improving, and it could be better, and it's a very perfectionistic. And I'm wondering, like, what do you have as advice or wisdom for any athletes listening or parents of young athletes in terms of kind of maintaining a healthy balance or perspective around their physical pursuits and goals, but also like really nurturing their heart, their soul, their resilience in the process?
I love this question. So for me is we're taught to be perfectionists and we're taught to be comparison. We compare each other. We compare our teammates. Okay, well, this person did this. So like if I'm just a little bit better and I should get playing time. So we have to kill that mindset. And I talk about you're competing with yourself. You have to find whatever it is. I like to even take it to a golf approach. They're not playing against the players. They're playing against the course. And so I like to say that. I like, instead of competing against your teammates and competing against what the coach says, I want you to just compete against yourself. Run as hard as you can. Don't just run, limit yourself. The other part of that is this is one of the first lessons I tell these kids. As an athlete, you have 50% that love you and you have 50% that hate you. But guess what? At any given time, that 50% that love you are going to turn on you. You make a bad play, lose the game, do something, and they're gone. So let's not depend on that. Let's not even put that as a factor into how good you're playing. Let's look at it this way. I like to look at these absolutes. An absolute is the sun comes up and the sun comes down. they probably have a family, so their mom or dad love them. And that's also conditional too. So that's another thing. If like they have to understand that those things are conditional too. But also what we have to realize is their faith. Most of my athletes are usually faith-based, are usually, and I'm like, I tell them, I'm like, so we have to look at a different approach. We have to look at those absolutes. The sun comes up, sun comes down, and the universe, God, universe, however you believe, that's it. Everything else, it's a clean slate. How you play this game doesn't matter. Also, like in basketball, you have what? 2 true outcomes when you take a shot. It goes in or it misses. So when you get the shot, take it, but be prepared for those 2 outcomes. A miss or it's going to go in. That's it. And so I teach them visualization. And so guess what? When you're doing that, you gain confidence and experience. But also the thing is when you're visualizing, you don't miss.
Yeah, that's so true. You touched on this a few times. So I'm going to just ask you straight down the barrel, because I feel like with most people who do life well, who can get to a state of peace and happiness, whatever's going on, there's some kind of faith, there's some kind of higher guidance. So what is that for you? And do you have a daily practice that kind of anchors you into a higher perspective?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I grew up right smack dab in the Bible Belt. And so I am a Christian faith, but also, I also learned different things that I didn't know that I apply. There is no black and white. There's a lot of gray, in my faith, and a lot of people around here, like they would not recommend hypnosis. I went through hypnosis to get through to the trauma. Like, I think that's important, is to know what works for you and also what you're willing to understand. So I appreciate the question, but I also believe that sometimes we just have to understand that we are an ant on this huge world, whether it's round, whether it's flat, all those things that science tells us where it's spinning, it doesn't matter. Can we control it? No. So it doesn't matter. All these things that we are up in arms and we're arguing about, it does not matter. I can't control what you guys think. You can't control what I think. What we can do is we can come together and say, I'm glad you believe this. I don't believe this, but guess what? You're still a pretty cool person, so I just like to experience this world with you. That's the true secret, is when we're able to have that type of not just mindset, but also that type of just love for each other. So one of the things I believe in is like you create better communities, and through better communities, you create a better world. So I hope I answered that well enough. But like, I think faith is like one of those touchy things where I'm willing to go there, but I'm also willing to look at other people's faith and pull, because there's a lot of ancient wisdom in a lot of these things, and they cross over a whole lot.
Yeah, they do. Thank you for that. They cross over. I found studying different faiths and religions that they all are saying the same thing pretty much. And I think what I heard from your answer was love is the answer. And you can't get better than that, right? So what do you think, Rob?
No, I think that's a great place to wrap up this interview, because that was the mic drop moment, right? It's not about divisiveness. It's about coming together and creating communities and creating a world where people really respect each other, listen to each other, Dwayne, this has been really a pleasure to talk to you. Tell our listeners how they can reach you, how they can get your book, any new projects you're up to that you want people to know about.
Yeah, so the book is called The Bounce Back Blueprint, Become Bulletproof. You can get that on Amazon. I created this. It's a blueprint. It is about what I did, the functional stuff. And also to let you know, it's very simplified. That's the most beautiful part about any self-help book. If you apply those things, it's like a cake. You'll get that cake. If you change it up, I can't guarantee the results. So if you put 3 eggs in a cake, you might not get the cake that you're expecting, right? Show up to win on most of my social media, or DW Morton 24.
Great. We'll
And then
share
my
those.
name,
Yeah. We'll share all
yeah.
those links for
But
people.
if you go to my website, show up to win with the number 2, that's where you're going to go into where I have a wait list. I'm going to create a community. Like I've been talking about this for a while, but I'm creating a community so I can teach people resilience and do it in a group setting. Because I feel like it'll keep me consistent, but it'll also keep the community consistent, and the community can help support each other, and I can support the community. So that was one of the big things. And then I have a podcast also. I host a podcast called Show Up to Win, which is on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And that is where I spotlight other people's resilient stories and join it. That's a passion project.
I just want to say thank you and offer my gratitude to you, Dwayne, for showing up from a fellow introvert also. I know that it's not always easy coming on these podcasts and having conversations and being put on the spot, especially with 2 people. So thank you so much for really sharing just a ton of wisdom that our listeners can really take, lots of practical stuff. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Wisdom We Share podcast. We hope today's episode sparked some new insight, imagination, and practical tools you can integrate into your daily life.
Continue this journey with us by subscribing, sharing, and dropping us a review. Until next time, stay wise.